So I found this very interesting. Rotten Tomatoes shows that at the time of making this video, Secret Invasion has an audience and critic score of 56%. To be honest, I still think that's too high given how poor the series turned out to be. And if you're not aware, I've reviewed the entire 6-part series, and yes, I'm using the word entire in the hopes that the show isn't renewed for a second season. It's hard to believe not so long ago that the MCU was basically a hit factory, churning out one guaranteed box office success after another. The franchise could do no wrong in the eyes of critics and fans alike, and I think that's why it's going to be the stuff of much debate for many years to come as to why it appeared to decline so rapidly after Endgame. I have, like many people, very much enjoyed the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In particular, the period now retroactively referred to as the Infinity Saga from 2008 to 2019. Specifically, the first 23 films, beginning with Iron Man 1 through to Avengers Endgame, with the exception of Captain Marvel and perhaps the overly farcical Thor Ragnarok. The quality of the films in the opening 3 phases was extremely high. The core 6 Avengers characters anchored the series, with secondary and additional characters being added later, such as Ant-Man, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange, for example. But ultimately, the MCU felt like a massive, multi-billion-dollar TV series, with each film being like an episode of a long-running series told over a decade. There was a strong sense of purpose and direction to those opening 3 phases, that although each film could be watched in isolation and enjoyed on its own merits, each installment contributed in some small way to the overall story arc and was leading to a big dramatic showdown involving Thanos and the Infinity Stones, and that's exactly what we got. The conclusion of the story arc of the core Avengers characters and the defeat of Thanos, which concluded the Infinity story arc and released all of the tension, suspense, and intrigue and excitement that had been building for 11 years. It felt very much like the Infinity Saga was the backbone of the MCU, by and large, so it seemed reasonable to assume and expect that if the Infinity Saga ended, so too would the MCU. But no, the MCU has stuttered along for another 4 years. This time it doesn't have the core Avengers characters to anchor it anymore, and it's also lacking a unified story or sense of direction, critical ingredients that made the franchise work in the first place. To add insult to injury, the 4th phase not only declined in quality, but also sought to focus more heavily on the message, and was dubbed by some as the MCU. I think the franchise also lost yet more cohesion by focusing too much on producing TV series for streaming. Phase 4 films were overall poor, as I've talked about those before, and as they progressed, they became less financially successful. Phase 5 has not gotten off to a good start with Secret Invasion. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was unsuccessful at the box office. Guardians 3 performed well enough, but with the failure of Secret Invasion and the underwhelming trailer for the Marvels, which has not been well received online, let's just say, the MCU has lost its almost invincible status as a bankable movie and TV franchise. And it all happened in less than 5 years. Endgame wasn't a perfect ending, and in hindsight it's easy to see how it could have been better, but it was certainly a serviceable enough ending that worked pretty well. But I think the Endgame hangover has loomed over the franchise since then, a sense that with each new film or TV show released, that it must live in a post-Endgame MCU era, and that the best days of the franchise are behind it. But what's more, it's not just that the recent productions have failed to live up to the standards of the first 3 phases, but that there's no longer as much excitement or interest in future productions coming in phases 5 and 6. I'm sure there will always be a section of the fan base who will lap up almost anything MCU related. You get that in any big franchise, but I think the core of the fans have become increasingly disillusioned of late, as well as general audiences too. A lot of people tell me the MCU ended for them with Endgame, and by and large I think that's where it should have ended. But seemingly, Hollywood studios cannot let a profitable property rest at the height of its critical and commercial success. They seem to want to keep squeezing every bit out of the golden goose, even to the detriment of the legacy of the franchise. Where once a poor MCU film was the exception to the rule, now it's the reverse. You might say the franchise has gone from superhero to zero and has lost key elements that made it great. Above all, the current productions just feel like they're kind of piggybacking off past glories. There was a sense in those opening 3 phases that there was a serious commitment to make the best superhero films possible, to produce high-quality cinematic entertainment that was story and character-driven, with impressive visual effects and great action, of course. Now I get the sense that there's merely a serious commitment to pumping out as much MCU-related content as possible, and I think that's the key difference. Even the CGI has declined in quality in recent years. It's like these films are churned out on an assembly line as fast as possible without the same quality control. But when there's big bucks to be made, Hollywood simply never knows when to say enough is enough. Anyway guys, that about does it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.